Kia ora and welcome to the Itinerary. Sustainability is one of the biggest trends of the decade. It addresses the need to healthily maintain our people, profit and planet. Now, given the controversy that surrounds our ability to look after home and our natural resources and the role that tourism plays within that, we will be focusing in on the planet aspect of sustainability today. With me are two operators of tourism businesses that have made a huge name for themselves in their efforts to protect our unique environment. Trent Yeo, Executive Director of Ziptrek Ecotours in Queenstown, and Jacqui Wilkinson from Adventure Capital. Kia ora and welcome to you both.
Kia ora, Megan. Nice to be here.
Could you each please tell me and give us and our viewers a summary of the sustainable practices you have personally established in your respective companies?
So for us, sustainability has always been a way of life, and as you said in the introduction, for us it's about respect for planet and the people that we share it with. So we've always been actively thinking about what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it, who we do it with, when we do it. So rather than trying to become a sustainable business, we started with the mindset of wanting to create a business based on the principles of sustainable living. So things like transport choices, minimising waste, being active in our communities has always been important to us. So I'll give you a really simple example in transport choices. So we are really strong advocates for the use of active transport, which is walking and cycling, and also public transport and electric vehicles. And it always gives me a huge buzz that when we employ somebody who's never thought about using active transport or public transport to get to and from work, they quickly adopt it as their primary way to get around, and that always really excites me. So for us, sustainability is about a way of life.
Great. Trent.
Kia ora, yeah, Ziptrek Ecotours in Queenstown. We have an amazing site where we look over the Waka Tip, and we're in a forest and beautiful mountains that surround us. So it was kind of a natural inspiration for the work that we do as a zipline operator. We are all based in living trees who are our structures, as well as something that are absorbing carbon dioxide every day. We take people on a journey, I think, to make people and help people to be connected with sense of place. And we talk to them about the story of why we do what we do. And I suppose one of the other big aspects of Ziptrek is we're based at the Skyline Gondola, so the access to our site is effectively like hitchhiking. So we're in a location which doesn't require vehicles. So all the way from our, I suppose, startup DNA, we've been designed as a sustainable business to not only express what we do, but also to make sure we're telling stories that are meaningful for the memory of people who visit us.
Great. Why is it important for New Zealand's tourism operations to jump on the sustainable bandwagon? Why is that?
Well, it's quite an interesting question, that one, because I don't think sustainability really is a bandwagon, because bandwagon kind of indicates that it's a bit of a fashion thing, it's a here today, gone tomorrow thing, and actually that's not the case. As a planet, we're facing some pretty serious consequences of mass consumerism. One example of that, of course, that's been getting a lot of, well, at least it was pre-COVID anyway, a lot of bandwidth was microplastics and the problem that we're facing there. So our oceans are filled with microplastics. Even the air we breathe now is filled with microplastics. And we've been plundering, basically, all the single-use resources that cannot be replaced, such as petroleum. So these problems have become so big now, they're what people are starting to refer to as wicked problems, where the solutions could have worse consequences than the problem we're trying to solve. So I think it becomes so overwhelming for people that sometimes they sort of think, oh, it's all too hard. I'll leave it for somebody else to fix, like the government or the corporations. But actually, we all have to find ways to think about what we can do. And I think one of the simplest things we can do is really start to confront our consumption habits. And one thing that excites me about this crisis we're going through at the moment is we've never had a better time to do that, to go back to a more simple, sustainable life of just thinking about what we really need as opposed to all those things that we don't really need.
Yeah, thank you for that. Trent, you were involved in the tourism sustainability commitment for Tourism Industry Aotearoa. So I bet all of this is probably now embedded in your brain and living lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it was I would say the work that we've done in the past helped to inform the work that we as a group got to from the sustainability commitment, the TIA sustainability commitment. I think that the breadth of the work that we do is really important, and it's really easy to think about sustainability from one dimension, and it's a very much a multi-dimensional thing. So as we've gone through 10 years of operation, I think that we have learned a lot about what we're missing or what we're not doing as well as other things. And recently we've moved more into a community and social focus than we've ever had before. The sustainability commitment really covers all of that, from the environmental, the host community, the visitor, also what are the businesses doing themselves and in their community. So I think that sustainability commitments are an amazing overview of everything you need to consider when you're considering the sustainability journey.
Thank you for that. Is it ever too late for businesses to embrace sustainability?
No. I think anyone can start the journey at any time, and it's just like going on a diet or starting a journey to fitness. You've just got to get started, and pretty soon you'll find that your habits and your mindset start to change. I think when you view it like that, sustainability is absolutely a journey. It's not a destination. There's a sort of a mistake that I made many years ago when I first started thinking about the lifestyle changes I was going to need to make personally, even before we started in business. And that realization was actually the most useful thing to get started, was really recognizing that it's just one little step each day, one little step each week, and before you know it, you've sort of made huge progress. And you're never going to reach the end. Like, nobody's perfect, and you're never going to reach the end destination and say, hey, I'm 100% sustainable now. That's not how it is. But the journey is really exciting, and it's just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time.
For sure, I hear what you're saying there, and it takes me to now asking you for some guides and tips. What would you say for New Zealand tourism operators would be some tips to get them going to embracing the sustainability?
So I think that sustainability in a way is an exercise in super efficiency. And so one of the things that I would talk about now is how do we be super efficient with your current assets, which is people, IP, and infrastructure. And if we think about it like that, it actually makes sense to do practice super efficiency right now, because times are pretty tough. And some would argue, oh no, we'll leave those things off because they're not as important to our bottom line, our economic bottom line. But I would argue that they're all completely connected, and particularly around your long-term sustainability as a business, is if you don't take this opportunity to rebuild in the way in which you've always wanted to, then you're missing the opportunity of literally a lifetime.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And, it takes me to the next part when we talk about government, the tourism industry, or even our communities. How would you say we can get every tourism business and tourists themselves going down more of a sustainable path?
It's a really challenging question, that one. A really challenging one.
I didn't write that one, but I think it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at an idealistic level, we're at a time really, and there's never been a better time than this crisis to do this. We really need a fundamental shift in the way that society thinks about consumption, and we're all guilty of it, myself included. We all consume way more than we need. We just basically consume without considering the impact it has on the planet. And the way the way that we've been traveling, and as once again, myself included, I can think of some of the trips that I've taken that were more tourism than they were travel. So I think what we need to do, and there's some great work going on at the moment with the Tourism Futures Task Force, and some other initiatives that are popping up around the country, of thinking like much bigger than we've ever thought before, and much more collaboration than we've ever thought before. And Trent mentioned before about the community, and thinking more about community, and I think a lot of businesses are thinking in that term. We probably need a bit more, I guess, support from government in some areas, but that's kind of like a huge conversation for another day maybe. But just working together and actually getting together and trying to find ways to collaborate more and engage with our communities, that will help us establish, I guess, the groundwork for when we can welcome tourists back. Because, do we want to welcome tourists back, or do we want to welcome travellers back? And I think that's a really important question. We want to invite and warmly welcome the right people back to our country.
And Trent, how about you?
Well, I think it was an interesting question really around communities and what they can do to support a sustainable pathway. Is we have an amazing time to vote with our feet. And I think that more than anything, I've been trying to spend my money where it counts. And so I would encourage all Kiwis to contemplate the decisions they make and support the organisations that support your community and the environment around you. And I think it's really very easy. If we get their support, then it will encourage the right type of behaviour from tourism businesses to excel and do well in that area.
Thank you so much to both of you, Jacqui and Trent. It's been a great pleasure. Next on the panel, I have representatives from Tourism Industry Aotearoa and Tourism New Zealand to discuss the commitments tourism operators need to make for sustainability. But first, let's hear from Jason Biggs as he talks about strengths-based development and the need to progress.
The relationship between a manager and their employee helps a business grow. Your job is only as good as your boss, and there is a direct link between happy workers and happy customers. To support a good relationship, there are 5 key coaching conversations that we need to have at work. The 4th conversation is creating opportunities to learn and grow that support our development. One of our most important human needs is progress, to know that we are moving forward. As a result, 9 in 10 people are actively engaged in their work if they have someone who encourages their development. Famous examples of this are Warren Buffett mentors Bill Gates, Audrey Hepburn mentored Elizabeth Taylor, Steven Spielberg mentors J.J. Abrams. Strengths-based development happens when a person starts to apply their strengths towards specific objectives. There are 3 steps to this process. Firstly, name it. Help identify the talents that specifically resonate. Talents are the thoughts, feelings, and behaviours that can be productively applied. Secondly, claim it. Help appreciate the power and opportunities their strengths give them. Finally, aim it. Help them intentionally invest in the development of their talents. These are weighted as follows: 10% structured learning, 20% learning from others, 70% learning from experience. So, what does this conversation look like? A good question to ask is there a particular skill or area that you would like to learn?
Next on our panel are 2 people who are key to making great sustainable change in tourism and have asked our tourism operators to commit to this new world. Lynn Robinson, Sustainability Advocate at Tourism Industry Aotearoa, and Paul Yeo, Industry Relations Manager at Tourism New Zealand. Welcome, kia ora. Thank you both for joining us.
Kia ora. Great to be here.
Oh, great to have you here. Tell me, why is sustainability in tourism so important?
It is critical. Look, until we do go down this regeneration path, tourism has to give more than it takes away for New Zealanders. It's about enriching New Zealand, and we probably haven't given it that much thought, perhaps as much as we should over the past few years. And I think COVID is thrown in something from left field and has made us focus a lot more on it. But many of us were already thinking of this ahead of time, but now it's a no-brainer. We have to absolutely commit to sustainability and really make sure that tourism is something not only our visitors enjoy, but of course Kiwis themselves.
Oh, great. Lynn, what are your thoughts there?
Totally agree with Paul. And I would add, look, it's so important to our industry to look after our environment and to have positive relationships with our communities. You know, we really rely on our beautiful natural environment and our welcoming people. So it's really essential, as Paul said, that we really focus on sustainability now more than ever.
Absolutely right. And Paul, the Tiaki Promise, an incredible initiative to come out of Tourism New Zealand. Can you tell us how it came about and the reception it's received? And congratulations on a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, look, it is fantastic, but the cool thing here is it's a collaboration between the public and the private sector, 7 organisations that are leading it. So can't take the credit at all from our perspective, but we're absolutely committed to it. So almost 2 years old now, 2018. If you cast your mind back then, there was a lot of pressures happening with the growth of international visitors, and certainly some Kiwis were getting a little bit edgy around some of the issues that come out of the growth: safer driving, freedom camping, littering. Why aren't these people taking more interest in our country? So a lot of these organisations got together. We'd seen what was starting to happen in other parts of the world. I think Iceland were at the front of this as well. And we said, what can we do that resonates? And of course, we went back to our roots, to Māori and Tiaki and what it actually stands for, and thought, let's put together a campaign that'll not only reach out to visitors, but most importantly, reach out to tourism operators, get them enthused so that they can help us get this messaging across. So it's been absolutely fantastic. It's got a long way to go yet, and I think it will really show its worth when the borders reopen and we start to get back into some growth again.
Oh, for sure. And Lynn, can you tell me about the recent launch of Tourism Industry Aotearoa's updated sustainability commitment?
Absolutely. So we call it the TSC. The TSC, it's been around since late 2017, and it was developed by industry for industry. And it's a balanced scorecard approach, looking at sustainability across 4 elements of economic, visitor, community, and the environment. So recently we updated the TSC. We just wanted to really strengthen some of the commitments, make sure that we had everything we felt was important to sustainability. So under those 4 elements that I mentioned, we have 12 commitments, looking at a whole range of things that businesses can work towards around sustainability. And we had about 1,400 businesses sign up actively to the commitment in the last couple of years. We're really focusing on getting the whole industry on board and committing to make change and operate more sustainable businesses, and in turn that will give us a more sustainable tourism industry.
Oh, great to hear. Tell me, how important was the introduction of the International Visitor and Conservation Levy for keeping New Zealand's tourism industry sustainable? Paul, I'll start with you.
Well, look, it was great. Of course, it's still sitting there, probably not used a great deal at the moment, because no sooner had the idea come up and we started clipping the ticket, so to speak, and putting the money in the bank, and it was starting to build up when, of course, COVID came along. But what it means, I think we're going to end up with a fabulous war chest there that's tagged. Unlike other government funds, it just doesn't disappear into government coffers. It's tagged for use for tourism infrastructure, for conservation. So it's intrinsically linked to the sustainability themes here. I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us in the future. And if you, going to what Lynn said about the tourism sustainability sustainability commitment. That and Tiaki go together so well. They're not mutually exclusive. So supporting both of these and where they cross over, and hopefully with this funding, once we're able to tap into it in a couple of years' time, perhaps it's going to be a real massive opportunity for us to step forward in this area.
Oh, sure. Lynn, anything to add there?
No, I think it's great to have that funding stream going into the industry, and we look forward to it becoming a sustainable funding stream in itself. There are some other different funding models that we're putting forward to the Tourism Futures Task Force as well, just to ensure that we have that money for industry good work, such as research and data and strategic projects.
Oh, great, Lynn. And I'm going to keep you there if you don't mind, unless, Paul, did you have something that I missed there?
I was just going to say that the Tourism Futures Task Force, and Lynn brought up what I think is going to be integral again to where we go as a country in the future. Really exciting. Everybody has an opportunity to plug into that, and I think that I will be amazed if sustainability and our pathway for the future isn't right at the top of their recommendations and reports. So it's a really exciting time.
Good one. Air travel and cruise are often criticised for not being sustainable enough, but they are essential services for getting international visitors to New Zealand. What are your views on these industries, and can they be improved? Lynn, I'll throw to you.
Well, I think we are always going to have international visitors coming to New Zealand, and because of our location, that is a reality that they have to get here somehow. So we're always going to have the visitors, but we can focus on markets that travel slowly and spend more time here, stay longer, visit more places, including our regions, and spend more money and give back to our communities as well. In terms of the carbon implications of air travel and cruise, it's a hard one because it's bigger than us. It's something that airlines are working on, but obviously it's a long game. Within the industry, we have a commitment focused on carbon. So we're trying to get the tourism industry to understand their own carbon footprints and look forward and look to reduce those, and and just manage what we can around carbon.
And Lynn, I like your thoughts around slow travel. That's exactly what it's all about. Look, we can't do without planes and ships. There's no other way to get here. But customers themselves are demanding that things change. It's really, really hard. But great brains out there are working today on how both of these industries can minimise their waste, and certainly the consumer is pushing back and saying, come on guys, let's think of some clever ways to do this. So as a country, we have an opportunity here to be at the forefront of this. We can't just put up the barriers, but we've got to work with airlines, and it is a global issue, one that isn't going to be solved straight away, but I think we can certainly be at the leading edge of this, because we are a pretty long way from just about everywhere other than Australia.
Oh, well, you've just answered my next question. It was going to be, is New Zealand leading the way in tourism sustainability? And by the sounds of it, you say we're right up there.
Well, we've got a long way to go, haven't we, Lynn? I think we'd like to think we are thinking of it. Maybe we didn't do as much as we could have when the times were good. Let's not waste a good crisis, to use that cliche. We do have to set our minds to doing this. Are we leading? We're there or thereabouts, but we've got an awful lot of work to do.
I'd like to add to that, just to say that our vision for the tourism sustainability commitment is to lead the world's most sustainable tourism industry. So that's our plan. It really has to be an all-of-industry approach to sustainability. We're trying to get every tourism business, no matter how big or small, no matter what sector of the industry they're in, to get on board with this and work towards sustainability, because it can really only be achieved if the small parts are playing their part.
Paul, you mentioned Iceland before. Is there anything other countries are doing that we can bring here?
Oh, I think we've got to keep our eye on what they're doing right across the world. This will be a battleground in many ways from other countries and other marketing around this area. So we certainly have to see what's there and what our other people are doing, but we can bring our own spin to this, our own opportunity to tailor it for the New Zealand market and for New Zealand customers. And I think our culture is really critically important here, and Maori culture. All of these things were thought about and brought together anyway. It's inherent in Maoridom. So I think that's a great opportunity for us. And as Lynn said, it's a collaborative one. The industry and government and operators have to work together here, otherwise we won't get there. And that's why I'm full of hope, actually, because there's some pretty innovative minds in tourism in this country.
Oh, fantastic. Honestly, it's almost like you're in my headspace today, because I wanted to ask both of you, what would be your hope from our future generations of tourism workers, operators, entrepreneurs? Talk to me about those hopes, both Lynn and Paul.
My hope is that, our hope is that tourism becomes a preferred career choice for workers, and we're working really hard on that. There's a lot of work, not just with TIA, but across the board, including Go With Tourism, around this. We have a whole commitment for businesses called Employer of Choice. But out of chaos, just generally on tourism operators, out of chaos comes opportunity is my favourite quote at the moment. And I think it's going to be interesting in a few years to see the operators who've made it through this crisis. They'll be that much more resilient. They'll be more innovative. They'll likely have more multi-skilled people on board. They'll be using more technology. So I think there's a lot of hope for a future and a really great tourism industry.
Totally agree. And Lynn, I think my hope is that, and I know they will go out there and think regeneratively. They'll question things, I think, much more than before, and that is going to set us up. And collaboration. We've always done so well by collaborating in the industry in this country, and that will continue, I'm sure. But I think where it's going to be very different with the new generation in many ways is that real desire to start from a regenerative phase and question where we are and look at a path forwards in a really positive way. It's really exciting.
Oh, Lynn, Paul, so wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing in our sustainability space, and know you have our full support, and we will drive it forward where we can too. Kia ora, and thank you for being with us.
Kia ora, fabulous. Great to be here.
Let's now cut across to Kate Godfrey of Madison Recruitment to give advice on hiring staff, which will be followed by a sneak peek into New Zealand's most sustainable hotel, the Hotel Britomart.
If you're looking to take on new staff at the moment, it's a very exciting time to be hiring. Exciting and stressful. With the high number of applications that each ad is attracting, it may be more efficient to outsource part or all of your hiring process. Your candidates are also your consumers, and you want to protect your brand. At the moment, the market is full of great candidates, so it's really important that your processes are scalable and robust. Step 1, know what you're looking for. This is a good time to revisit what makes a good hire for your company, and you can enjoy having a strong and varied pool of candidates to choose from. Be clear on how you want people to apply, and then get back to them. It doesn't have to be a phone call for every applicant, just an acknowledgement that you've received their application and you're considering it. When you've created your long list, be clear on the processes and timelines. Candidates understand that things might take a little bit longer than usual at the moment, so it's all about communicating those expectations. If you're not sure about the future of a position or a team, you may want to consider bringing someone on a temporary or a contract basis. Again, be transparent about this. We all know that it's a time of uncertainty. Offer a virtual interview option to your candidates. These days, video interview platforms are far more user-friendly with hundreds of options available. Whilst it may not be suitable for every job, a virtual interview can be more convenient for the candidate, more time efficient for you, and you won't need to reschedule if we go under lockdown. It also gives you insight into how confident the candidate is using technology. After you've selected your successful candidate and you've made the offer, remember to contact the unsuccessful candidates. This is best done by a phone call, but it can be over email. Let the unsuccessful candidates know any feedback you can offer that might help them in the future. Not only is it good for your employer brand, but it also recognises the time and the effort that the candidates went into for your recruitment process. And above all, act in good faith. This year has been tough for job seekers and for employers alike, so it's important that we all work together.
Kia ora, my name is Clinton Farley, the General Manager of the Hotel Britomart. I'm responsible for the overall effective operation of the Hotel Britomart, and that involves our 104 guest rooms and suites, as well as management of our restaurant known as Kimi. So what really makes the Hotel Britomart unique is that we are a boutique luxury property down here in the heart of Britomart, Auckland. It's really the icing on the cake to what has been an almost 16-year project or redevelopment of the Britomart precinct. The Hotel Britomart has been recognised as a 5 Green Star hotel by the New Zealand Building Council. What that recognises is the construction practices that were put in place through the development of the hotel. So anywhere from reusing materials that may have been on site, like concrete that has been recycled, through to ensuring that anything removed from site was done in a sustainable way. Further to that, it's things down to the plant and equipment that's been installed at the hotel, the insulation in the building, the windows used, and we haven't just left it there. We've really taken that right through to everything that we've done operationally in the hotel. For example, beside me here we have a beautiful totara tree. When this totara tree grows too large for here, we'll replant that up in the Bay of Islands at our property, The Landing. Other things that we have at the hotel are complimentary bicycles, and then moving into the guest rooms, we've really tried to be as sustainable as possible as well. So we've worked with a company called Eco Linen, who have imported 100% organic cotton sheeting. And then looking at the pillows in our bedrooms, they're made from a microfiber. In one pillow, there's about 45 recycled plastic bottles. Our duvets are also microfiber from that same source. From an amenity point of view, we really thought outside the square. We didn't want to import a whole lot of shampoos and conditioners in the small mini bottles. We've worked with a local company here in Auckland called Son's Cuticles. The product is locally made, locally sourced, and that's what we've really tried to do with everything operationally here at the hotel, even through to food and beverage, and really showcase the best of New Zealand. The Hotel Britomart is really excited to be committed to the Tiaki promise, which is really Tourism New Zealand's way of promoting New Zealand as a sustainable place that cares for people, culture and place. We've really instilled those values through everything that we've done here at the hotel. One of the focuses here at the Hotel Britomart is everything that is about telling stories. There's so many stories in the design and construction of the building, and we just love to tell those stories because it creates greater connection for the guests that will be staying with us and greater understanding and appreciation for Auckland. We're really excited to be opening the Hotel Britomart. It really has been built to showcase the best of New Zealand. We want to be at the forefront of coming out the other side and really promoting downtown Britomart, promoting Auckland, being a key part in reopening New Zealand to the world when that comes.
And don't forget to join us next week when we will be discussing events. I look forward to chatting with you all again, same time, same place. Haere rā.